often hear myself and others complain about authors such as Stephen Flowers. And one of the reasons that I hear other people complain about him is he didn't speak Icelandic, so he had to have other people help him with the translations. I actually have my own reasons, and I'm going to give you a couple examples in some of the books that I've found with some of the research that I've done. Just keep this in mind. This is just my research, so of course it could be wrong and inaccurate. So always check things and question them yourself. I have 2 books by Stephen Flowers. I have Icelandic Magic, right? And then I also have the Galdrabók by Stephen Flowers as well. Now, Galdrabók is kind of, as far as I understand, it's Icelandic for Book of Magic, so it's like a very generic term, I don't think. Clarify one thing really quick. Is the very beginning of the video I mentioned Galdrabók is basically like a book of magic or book of spells. Yes and no. I want to be very clear on that, because if you're looking into Icelandic, the Icelandic language doesn't really have a word for magic as we have it. There's a lot of words that are practices that if you look at the practice, you might classify it as magic, but not really a word for magic. If there was any word, I argue it would be fjolkingi, which is like much knowing or to know things. But Galdrabók, to really break it down, Galdrabók, a book of Galdr. Galdr is a type of chant or singing. We have references to the sagas and eddas of Galdr being used, but it was a vocal thing. It was something both men and women did, unlike Seidr, which was specific to women, unless you were Ergia, very sissy kind of man. It was very, very feminine man. It was not a good thing for men to practice Seidr, to be a Seidr mother versus a Seidr kona, Seidr man versus a Seidr woman. But regardless, Galdrabók, just wanted to be clear on that. I'm saying Book of Galdr, but that's what he's calling it. So again, knowing that, and even though they translated, oh, this is a book of magic, it's not, again, it's not a direct translation, so be aware of that. Anyway, and by all means, check me on that, but I'm pretty certain on that. There's one Galdrabók, although there is one source I found online, which is supposed to be the Galdrabók, or at least referred to as a Galdrabók. And then I've looked through a couple other books that are out there, such as Psalm 66 and a couple others, that I'm trying to find out where he gets some of these symbols from. Questioning sources and trying to find out where authors got their information from, I think is important when you're doing research, especially if you're quoting this or getting tattoos of stuff that you find in these books. So let me give you a couple of examples, including Vegvisir, and how he says one thing in here, but looking at the sources, I can't find it elsewhere. So either I don't know what the sources are, so if you have them, share them, or he's wrong. In either case, I think it's good to reference where things come from. So let's get into it. So for this first part of the video, we'll be looking through the Galdrabók, an Icelandic book of magic by Stephen Flowers. So first and foremost, he says here that this is basically related spells in Germanic magic. Is it Germanic if it's Icelandic? Because a lot of these staves come from Icelandic grimoire, so I don't know if I would consider them Germanic. Now you'll notice this symbol here, and I'm going to reference this because the only place that I can find this symbol specifically is in the Hold manuscript, and it is not called this. So look what he's calling this symbol, right? Lukustafr, and this is apparently a luck thing, and that's the symbol he's using. So that's actually part of Vegvisir, and I will show and back that up with the Hold manuscript. Then on this page, he has what he's calling Vegvisir, and he has that as the symbol. So let's go ahead and take a look at both the Hold manuscript as well as that other symbol there and what the actual Lukustafr is according to the Hold manuscript. I don't see Vegvisir anywhere else. I've seen a couple references where they say it's in the Galdrabók or Psalm 66, which I can't find it in either of those. Now, Geir Vigvason said he pulled these symbols together for the Hold manuscript, so it is possible that they're older. I just can't find any references to them. So the oldest one I can find is the Hold manuscript. So let's look at those and do a comparison. This one here, as I mentioned, is Psalm 66. It's like this Edda book, and looking through this, it's awesome. It doesn't have any of the references, as I'd mentioned, to any like Vegvisir or anything like that. But if you do jump through this, even if you can't read it, there's some awesome imagery in here. So this is actually Odin. This is an old depiction from the 1600s, 1500s, somewhere in that time period. And this is an Icelandic manuscript, so definitely worth checking it out. Just for the imagery and artwork alone is just fantastic. But again, I didn't see Vegvisir in here. I do see it in the Hold manuscript. Now, as I'd mentioned with the Hold manuscript, I'm going to be using a translation because it's really hard to read Old Icelandic, and I don't speak it very well myself. But this is a translation done by Justin Foster in 2015 by Geir Vigvulsen, 1860. So there's other ones that you can see online as well. But if we jump down to the area in question, remember we were talking about Lukastafr. This is Lukastafr, not the symbol that Flowers had in his book. And you can scroll down here and see where Justin's nice enough to write it out down here, Lukastafr. You can also see the English translation, which is always nice to have that. So that is number basically 11. So if you go down here to number 11, it is lucky symbol. So whoever wears these staves on him will not meet with mishaps on sea and land. There's a lot of stuff here for Christian symbology too, but a lot of these symbols are basically what he has listed in his Galdrabók, Stephen Flowers. And now let's jump down to Vegvisir. So here's Vegvisir, and as far as I know, this is the oldest example of Vegvisir I can find. Every other symbol in the whole manuscript has a name. This has got the description on each side. That is the symbol he was saying, Lukastafr, which we can clearly see there's a different one for Lukastafr. This has no name under it. And the script that follows both of these symbols is the one for Vegvisir. As you can see here, Justin puts these together for Vegvisir. And if you take the script side by side, let's just go down to the translation, carry the sign with you and you won't get lost in storms of bad weather, even though an unfamiliar surrounds. That's what people say is Vegvisir. That's what Vegvisir is for, right? And this shows those symbols together. So even if these symbols don't go together, that right there is not Lukastafr. So that's just an example. And this is why I'm saying be careful with your sources and ask your sources where their sources come from. Either of these would be from the Viking era. And that's fine. You're not trying to reconstruct the Viking era. Well, maybe you are. I don't know. That's a time period that's long gone. And anything we have today is layover work. Even a lot of the sagas and Eddas and stuff were written down like 200 years roughly afterwards. And it was built out of individuals who had the cultural traditions to write it down, right? You had individuals like Snorri Sturluson, who was a skald. He's going to write it down to the best of his abilities. As far as I know, his father was actually still a pagan, because there's this, basically this trial, and he had a spurned lover or something like that try to cut his eye out to make him look like his idol, talking about Odin. So there were still people that practiced it, and we see laws that forbade practicing paganism in a lot of these different types of countries. So in the Scandinavian countries and stuff, there's laws about doing certain practices because people are still doing it. So we know there's cultural traditions, and that's how a lot of reconstruction happens, is through the culture. But if people are just slapping a name on it and not giving you references of where it comes from, be careful. Be careful. So some of the Galdrabóks are claimed to be from the 1600s. We have the whole manuscript from 1860, right? 19th century. It's like, that's newer stuff. If you want to use it, fine. Just know where it comes from, and be careful if you're trusting someone to translate that they're translating it properly. That's the entire point of bringing this up. But anyway, again, if you have references to an older version of Vegvisir or any of those symbols, Aegis-Yam or any of them, if you have older examples and can cite those or share the PDFs, please do. I'd be very interested in looking at them. But as far as I can tell, there's some inaccuracies in books like this. So that's why, which is the whole point of this video, that's why a lot of us complain about certain authors like this, is when they don't give you complete information, or things are missing, or they mistranslate stuff, and people can make mistakes. A lot of us make mistakes, right, in our writings or in our videos, and we learn and we improve and evolve from it. So maybe he has better stuff, maybe he's done more research and it's more factual now, and at least he was willing to share. A lot of people, a lot of scholars and stuff don't share their information. We're now starting to get a lot of these PDFs and original sources. So I highly encourage you to go to the original source yourself and put forth some effort to try to get down to what these people are claiming and talking about. So best of luck in your journey.